lost, of course. And I bet you there are a fair number of Asian Americans like me who are rooting for the San Francisco 49ers. It's unfortunate because you know what happened. They were like robbed of a chance as soon as there was an injury. It's almost as if some diabolical football team in the future will say, let us hurt all the other players on the other team or the key players. Let's hurt them. And their chances are gone. I mean, after the first quarter, the 49ers had their fourth string quarterback in there. And he couldn't, he's a practice quarterback. He's a well paid mannequin quarterback who spends practice emulating the enemy, right? He practices as the enemy quarterback for the defense, and he doesn't really play or practice to play as a real 49er player. So as soon as Brock Purdy got hurt, which is really sad, he completed 2 passes, then he got hurt. That was it. 49ers had no chance unless they kept the score really, really small and were able to score points by like, oh, an interception for a touchdown. Oh, here's a run back on a kick. Just any play that doesn't include the quarterback, which is about, what, 5% of the plays, 10% of the, I mean, they had no chance. It was like so demoralizing. You're watching the game thinking, oh, they got to know something, but they knew nothing. So, all right, so the 49ers are out. But look, some good teams are in there. The Chiefs, I like Patrick Mahomes. I wish the Chiefs would get rid of the tomahawk chop. Um, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati. I have in-laws in Cincinnati. It's too bad that they did not win. They made it close. And then the Eagles. Look, I like the Eagles except when they play my teams. So if you're an Eagles fan, God bless you. But really, Jalen Hurts he's a good quarterback, but one of the sports commentators was commenting about what makes an ideal star player in the NFL, and that is everyone tells him no, and he proves them all wrong. And Jalen Hurts is that guy. He's a guy in that mold. Actually, they said the same thing about Mahomes. They said the same thing about Brock Purdy. So the commentator was saying that all the 4 quarterbacks starting in the championship games yesterday, well, they were doubted. Built resilience, made them strong. So we'll see. Look, it's going to be a good matchup because for the first time, I think ever, you have 2 starting black quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. The Eagles have Hurts. The Mahomes is with the Chiefs. Never happened before. And those of you of a certain age know that this used to be a big deal. I mean, it used to be an incredible big deal about whether or not they're, black. It was very racist, right? They thought, oh, are black athletes smart enough to be quarterback? Well, why aren't there any black quarterbacks? I mean, it's hard to believe, but that was a discussion. And now we just take it for granted. And we understand how racist it was in the past. Oh, so racist. So that's a plus. I mean, I think that's a big deal. First time ever, 2 black starting quarterbacks going at it. It shows something about how diversity in all its forms in our society, still in its infancy. Still. I mean, it's not like, it's not like it's uniform throughout the country. It's like, it's going to be different in every, red state, blue state. And of course, today on today's show, we're going to talk about some issues that I think are interesting. Fred Korematsu Day today. Also, we're going to talk about the Tyree Nichols video. Did you see it? I'm with people who say, I don't want to see it. You should see it. get a taste of it because that's policing today. But I want to begin by talking about the Frigid Fringe. Frigid.nyc. It is the thing that I'm doing. This thing I do here. This is like me doing my Rush Limbaugh impression. If I were a Filipino, or if Rush Limbaugh were Filipino and about 400 pounds lighter and off opioids and a whole lot more liberal and a whole lot more compassionate and just a better person. That's what I do here when I do this talk show. Because I'm radio, broadcast professional, et cetera, et cetera. This is what I do. But I kind of moonlight. Yeah, well, I do this theater show because look, I went through theater programs or there were no roles for people like me. They said, well, let's see. Okay, well, we already cast Othello, and maybe you can play Shakespeare has a lot of ghosts. Maybe you could play a ghost, Emil. I don't know. I just, there was never a reflection of a Filipino in a play, and no one was as imaginative as I was growing up and doing theater. I mean, even in the 70s, you think, or the 80s, or not like now. Now there's diversity, right? You get your crazy rich Asians, you get your everything everywheres, and you get people who see that, hey, these stories, are real, they're important. So I recall seeing Spalding Gray when I was in my formative years in the 80s. And Spalding Gray would talk about being a white American, right? He'd talk about his life. I was like fascinated. Here's a guy talking about, hey, maybe one day I can talk about my Filipino life, my Filipino American life, and maybe I can get someone to care. Maybe look, that's a tough ask, Emil. That's a tough ask. I don't know if you can. So I've been doing these one-man solo shows, these fringe festival shows at fringe festivals around the country for since 2017. San Diego, Baltimore, Washington D.C., Orlando. They're great fun. I love doing them. At San Francisco, they had a little fringe, and I got tabbed to do the Frigid.nyc fringe in New York City, and it's coming in a couple of weeks, February 16th. And please buy a ticket. Please, you can. It's an intimate space. Emil, Amok, lost NPR host found under St. Mark's, and other stories. I tell stories, and you see my entire body. Not that it's such a departure from the Zoom box here, but you do see me, and I tell stories, perform well. I'm authentic. I'm real. Do I play a character? Well, there might be a character who sneaks in there, but mostly it's me, and I'm telling stories that are kind of funny. They're funny because they're painful, because they're about my life. I am, in fact, the lost NPR host found under St. Mark's. St. Mark's is the theater I'm going to be in. St. Mark's Theater it's called Under St. Mark's in New York City. And if you go to my website at amok.com, you can click on the link there to get to a secure site and get your tickets. Or you can go to frigid.nyc and put in Emil Amok. Why am I Amok? Well, this is Emil Amok's Takeout. I'm going to be Amok on stage in a nice way, in a nice metaphorical way. So catch a show. You can buy tickets to see it live. That's the other thing. I just wanted to get out of my closet and I wanted to get in front of a live audience again. It's been 3 years. So I'm going to get in front of a live audience. I'm going to do the show. Everyone's gonna like be happy and be informed because I'm gonna tell stories about what it's like to be Filipino in America in the 20th century, which I survived. It's the 21st century, which I'm not so sure about. And I talk about having been at NPR. I talk about my father. I talk about could be your father. I talk about going to an Ivy League school. I talk about my health, being married to PETA. I talk about all sorts of things. And it's all in under an hour. And it's all good fun. Fringe.nyc is where you find tickets under St. Mark's. And here's the good thing. Also at amok.com, there's a link to tickets. But one of the good things is you don't have to be in New York to see me perform. You can watch it. The theater is going to live stream it, and they're selling live stream tickets. So there you go. It would be sort of like this, but more theatrical. I mean, in the sense that you're seeing me in a theater. I think the way they have their cameras set up, but it's fun. You'll say, God, Emil should come to my town to do Emil Amok, the theater show, versus Emil Amok's Takeout, which is this show. But yeah, Emil Amok, Lost NPR host found under St. Mark's. And let me just read a little from the blurb. Because the blurb is Emil Amok, Emil Guillermo is Emil Amok, a Filipino American with white privilege, that is, white voice privilege. He sounded white enough to host All Things Considered. Now he considers all he would have said on race and culture had he not been riffed by the pre-woke. What does that mean? I tell stories about the $15.87 Filipino, the media, affirmative action, Harvard, PETA, and a colo meditation. What an ending. Yeah. All that happening on Emil Amok, Lost NPR host found under St. Mark's. Check it out. Go to fringe.nyc or go to amok.com. Get the link, get a ticket. If you're not there live, you can see it streamed. And when it's streamed, you say, wow, this is like going to Raging Waters or something. Exciting it is. And all that's happening February 16th. The dates are really tricky because they're at a variety of times. February 16th at 8:10 p.m., for example. These are Eastern times. Saturday, February 18th, 5:20 p.m. Thursday, February 23rd, 6:30 p.m. Saturday, February 25th, 12:20 p.m. Sunday, February 26th, 7 p.m. Friday, March 3rd, 8:10 p.m. and Saturday, March 4th, 10:20 p.m. And here's the thing, like I said, if you're not in New York, you can be in the Philippines, you can be in California, you can be in Hawaii, you can be anywhere better than where I'm going to be in the Lower East Side of New York. Not that that's a bad place to be, but they call it the Frigid Fringe for something, because it's probably going to be cold, even though there's no snow. I mean, it's weird in New York now. There's no snow. It's cold, but it's no snow. So check it out. Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, found under St. Mark's. And we wipe into the regular show and welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. I do this show because I call it the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs. And it's important. Oh, look, I didn't change the little thing here. It says show 475. And this is show 476. Make no mistakes. So I will just put down for replays. Yeah. Because, yeah, sorry about that. I didn't change. This is show 476. And of course, we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the video, but I want to begin by talking about today, January 30th. It's an important day because it's Fred Korematsu Day. And you know Fred Korematsu, right? Because I call this, the micro talk show of the AAPI. If you're AAPI, or even if you're not, you can be anyone in America. You got to be concerned about Fred Korematsu and just think to yourself, happy birthday, Fred Korematsu, 104 today. He's remembered in legal history as the man who stood up and said no to the incarceration of more than 120,000 innocent Japanese Americans during World War II. He said no. He said, I'm not going. And this is the thing, incarceration, key word, because that's what it was. I mean, they euphemize it by saying, oh, they got sent to camp. They were incarcerated. When the executive order for internment was handed down, Korematsu defied it, was arrested, and then was used by a sensationalistic media to fan the flames of hate by xenophobic warmongers. They used the J word like the N word, and it was sprinkled liberally throughout the media to a cheering America. And the Northern California ACLU knew the environment. They tested the constitutionality of the internment, and they took up Korematsu's case all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, you might think that the High Court is diseased by politics now. Well, it was no less so in 1944. The court found it hard to defy the wishes of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And this is one of the things that, you might love Roosevelt for other things he might have done, but, the court ruled against the 14th Amendment rights of Korematsu and in favor of military necessity. It was a 6-3 decision, a configuration of the court that resonates today. And back then, the 6-3 back then included civil rights stalwarts like William O. Douglas and Hugo Black. So it's not quite the 6-3 conservative bent that the court is today. The number. But there were some disappointments, some people on the sick side that you didn't expect. So Korematsu spent time in a camp where he found himself an outsider, shunned by other Japanese Americans who believed, and this happens, right? They thought, hey, Korematsu, just shut up and cooperate. Come to camp with us. That was a split that few people really understand. I mean, some in the Japanese American community know that because that story has been handed down. But that was the truth. Korematsu was shunned inside. And it was only in 1983 when advocates for Korematsu found an Army document that really acknowledged the government presented false information to the court. And that was used, this young firebrand of young Japanese American lawyers, they used that document to vacate the Korematsu conviction in a federal district court in San Francisco. But here's the catch. The government never bothered to appeal the case at the district court level. And it didn't bother to overturn the old case at the Supreme Court. So, because of the process, the 1944 SCOTUS decision still stands. Now, some people may think that the Supreme Court overturned it when Chief Justice John Roberts commented during the 2018 travel ban case. You might remember that. Trump versus Hawaii. But it really didn't. Roberts merely rebutted Sotomayor's assertion that Korematsu and the travel ban were related. He didn't say, oh, we're overturning. Well, I think he said we're overturning it, but not officially. See, Roberts said Korematsu was irrelevant, yet at the same time, he did manage to say, quote, Korematsu was gravely wrong the day it was decided, has been overruled in the court of history. Key phrase. it's been overruled in the court of history, and to be clear, has no place in law under the Constitution. Which sounds good, but that's not quite a reversal in fact. So the fact is, Korematsu provided some cover for Roberts as he then went on to follow exactly what the Supreme Court did in 1944. Roberts deferred to the president, in this case Trump, and upheld the travel ban. And that's how history works out. Now what about Roberts's words? Do they mean something? I talked to some scholars. They say, well, that's in the category of dicta, D-I-C-T-A, dicta, which is to say deep in the weeds of opinion for legal scholars to ponder, or good for the court of history. And so that's why you got to say, hey, Fred Korematsu, let's honor him today. It's his 104th birthday. It's real. And you know, that ruling, you know, that 6-3 ruling in the Supreme Court, you know, against Korematsu still stands and could be used at any time against people that the majority feels are suspicious for whatever reason, or people that the government wants to harass. It's any kind of xenophobic reaction on the part of the government can be justified using the same law that incarcerated Fred Korematsu, because it was not, as I said, it was not overturned. So it's important to remember Fred Korematsu, 104 today. This is his official birthday. It's also an official state holiday in California. Should be an official state holiday everywhere, because just as we honor people like Martin Luther King, for Asian Americans, for Fred Korematsu, he's it. He is the man. So I want to just say a couple of things about Tyree Nichols. I know. Did you see the video? I said I might pop up after Friday's show, you know, because they released it at 7:00. Some of my first reactions. Well, the first video was not as clear, but you can hear things. You can hear people say, "Let's stomp them," or you can hear, you know, the body cam footage was really more to put you in a place and authenticate, yeah, this is things happening right now, but things weren't clear. You could see them yank Tyree Nichols out of the car, and you could see him defenseless, and you can see him trying to pepper spray, threaten to tase him. But from that first video, the thing that comes across is, man, the cops tased or pepper sprayed each other. And you see the policeman dousing his eyes, one of the policemen, just continuously. And this was the first wave of police officers to respond to Nichols, who we don't really know why he was stopped. They say erratic driving, but we don't see that. So I really think, just like everyone else, the footage from the poll camera, that was it. And frankly, I saw it all, but I didn't then later go to dissect every single bit, because it just wasn't necessary. And I was watching the news today, and my wife was saying, "Oh, I don't want to see it." She didn't want to see it, and I'm thinking, you know, you should see it, at least know what's there, because it's important to show you the state of policing today. You know, I like to ask, did you see yourself? Not did you see the video, but did you see yourself in the Tyree Nichols video? Because I swear, very easily, it could have been you if you're a person of color. I'm an Asian American Filipino, and I will say this: I've been stopped. I have been stopped, traffic stop, busted tail light, driving fast, driving slow, just driving, just being. I've also been, stopped because I was seen as an angry complainant at a counter, a business counter, and I'm really a nice guy, but the counter person said, "I'm calling the police." The police came. I was lucky because the police weren't mad at me, and that seems to be the difference when I saw that Nichols video. I mean, they were mad at Nichols, and it's just funny because a week ago we were marveling at the police work in the Monterey Park incident. How quickly they found the suspect, Hu Cantran, by mid-morning Sunday, from Saturday night to mid-morning Sunday. How great the police, we saw the minute-by-minute work of the police as they were trying to give out information. And now, a week later, with the release of the Nichols video, we're wondering, what's up with law enforcement in America? I mean, sure, we need the police. This is the conflict. We need the police. We don't want to get rid of the police. We need the police. And we're thankful when they do their job, like hunt down that Monterey Park shooting victim, But we don't want to see them abuse their power, because now Asian American mass shooters, they're pushed off the front pages by this other chronic American problem, which is bad policing. Specifically, the police abuse of power. I mean, it's that funny aftertaste when the good guys act like bad guys, and they don't need the guns. They have the guns, but if you have tasers and nightsticks and hands and feet, you have all you need to carry out the brute force of authority. And I said this after this weekend, there will be one civil rights story in America, the beating of Tyree Nichols, 29, just 29, at the hands of 5 Memphis police officers, all of whom have been fired and charged this week with felonies, including second-degree murder and kidnapping. A 6th officer was just announced today, unsure what charges will be filed against him, but he's been put on administrative leave. And as I said, I saw it. I just couldn't watch and watch and dissect blow by blow. I just felt assaulted as I watched it. And thank goodness for that poll camera, because the body cams gave you the hateful ambience, the sense of urgency, the blurriness. But that wider context, you saw the officers' kicks and the punches to Nichols' head and body. I didn't count them all because here's the fact. One is too many. One is too many. The other thing you notice is that who's supervising whom here? This elite sense of coppery. They're not band of one, they're band of many, but who's in charge? No supervisor there saying, hey, don't do that. No one saying, hey, stop that violent behavior. And then the other thing you notice is how long it takes to get aid to Nichols. I mean, it was as egregious as the punch, the doing nothing part. Now, some older folks may say, look, I saw the Rodney King video and that guy just got beaten to a pulp. This guy seemed like they went a little light on him. See, that's the difference between then and now. Now, we just expect that the police are going to be brutal. We have accepted a level of brutality, which is really unacceptable. I mean, that's what the Nichols video showed, that officers now find that there's an acceptable level of police work because, like I said, they were mad. It was like self-defense. Against what, though? Against a man whose demeanor was apparently compliant, yanked out of the car, assaulted, and then Nichols escapes out of self-defense, and then when they caught him, oh, here comes holy hell. So we got the 5 officers now charged with murder. I don't know what the 6th will be charged with. He was named today. And he was white, by the way, the 6th officer. But the funny thing is, all the 5 officers who were charged last week, they've obtained attorneys, and they're claiming their innocence. But it's hard to see that video and see it as a sign of innocence on the part of the police. I mean, that's innocent behavior? I mean, and that's what brings out the shock to the level of what I had when I first saw the Rodney King video decades ago. The fact that, not that the level of violence was as high as the Rodney King video, but that the level of acceptance of what was on that video shown on Friday, why some police would look at that and say, yeah, it's justified. We were chasing him. That's why it's important. If I ask you, did you see the video? Because you should. And if you say, Emil, I'll let you and others opine on it, and I'll just go along. Yeah, not good enough. See it on YouTube. Check it out, because the good doesn't win out unless we're all outraged by the Nichols video. You have to be part of this jury. Whether you protest in the streets or choose to do it quietly, the tape must be seen to understand the sense of urgency. And this is a real case where, because most of the officers who are part of this case are black, it kind of cancels the racial animus as a factor. This seems to be a pure and clear sense of police brutality, where the only relevant color is blue, right? Blue. Blue, 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 blue. 5 of them went over the edge of the thin blue line and are now accused of murdering an innocent man. And just don't think Tyree Nichols couldn't be any one of us, Asian American, Latinx, whatever. Could have easily been any of us. I mean, Asian Americans have been on both sides of the line. Think Angelo Quinto, Filipino American, who died of a police chokehold that was applied to him a couple of years ago. Just as in the mass shooting, where we have assimilated into the police brutality narrative, Asian Americans are slowly assimilating into this new narrative, right? Asian American officer Tu Tao got 3.5 years for his part in violating George Floyd's rights in Minnesota. Just think back to that. The guilty verdicts against the officers in that George Floyd case were rare things. I mean, it's hard to prove a case against a cop. But the George Floyd case did. And we see what kind of real impact that case really has had on the day-to-day policing. Not as much as it should have. Not if we can produce a Nichols video in Memphis, Tennessee. The culture of blue is bluer than ever. Things got to change. Things got to change. And I hope that if you have not seen the tape, you see the tape. Just give you a sense. of policing in America. Hey, while I was talking, this bulletin came out. Pentagon poised to secure new access to key Philippine bases, part of a push to strengthen U.S. presence in region and deter China, which is I guess it's a good thing in a way, but it's also a bad thing if you're a Philippine nationalist. I know that the Filipinos at the time of Marcos's fall were saying, "Hey, we need the bases out," and now they're coming back because the Philippines is a little player, and I know this is from an Asian American perspective, Filipino American perspective. You got to say, good for the bases. They're there to protect all of us in the free world. But I know that there must be some nationalists who are just saying, the politics of this. Because for so many years, Philippine nationalists were saying, America, get out. We want to be the Philippines. We want to be our own sovereign country. This is just part of the compromise that you need help from superpowers like the U.S. still to, as the phrase goes, to deter China, which remains a threat in the power balance of things. Not that anyone wants to do any harm to any one country, but the balance of power, this is how the balance of power works its way out. Anyway, this just came through the Wire, Washington Post story. I'm going to have to call my Filipino friends and see what they say about that. All right, so we talked about the video. We talked about Fred Korematsu. We talked about the Fringe Festival. We talked about the 49ers. It's going to be tough. Look, I'm going to try to keep all my shows shorter because I'm still preparing for my Fringe Festival. So see what I'm preparing. February 16th, 8:10 p.m. is the first day at Under St. Mark's Theater, New York City. Go to frigid.nyc for tickets. Go to amok.com, click there to the ticket link. And 7 shows. I'm doing 7 shows. So it should be fun. And if you can't, I repeat, if you can't be there in person, you can still see it on computer by buying a ticket there at frigid.nyc. It should be fun. Should be fun. All right, that's going to be a wrap here. Regular listeners of our show, yeah, you can check us out at Emil Amok on Twitter, at EMILAMOK on YouTube, at YouTube/Emil Amok1. On, let's see, where else? On Facebook, fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media, or just go to Emil Guillermo Media on Facebook, or my personal page, Emil Guillermo. Go to amok.com to get the replays I post there. You know, it seems like everyone's meditating now. I was watching the Today Show, and Harry Smith was like doing a walking meditation around a labyrinth. And why not? You know, it's people are realizing that there are therapeutic things about meditation that are related to, you know, Western ideas, you know, psychotherapy, psychology, that Buddha as a therapist is actually pretty powerful. And so, you know, I like to close every show with a little sense of loving kindness. It's all about self-worth. It's all about loving yourself, showing a little love to yourself. Just don't forget to do it. And don't let the things in your mind clutter things, the voices in your head. They're just voices. They're usually wrong. and offer yourself a little self-love. And it's always helpful before you offer it to yourself to offer it to others first, because it comes back to you twofold, threefold, fourfold even. My mother said so, not Buddha, my mother. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Back again soon. Check it out live or on the replay. amok.com. Until next time. Mahal